Everyone wants financial freedom. Few people are willing to become the person capable of creating it. Today's guest didn't just build wealth, they transform who they were to make it possible. Stay until the end to find out.
You're listening to the Real Estate Growth Investor Circle Canada with your host, 𝐘𝐿. This is a safe space for immigrants, entrepreneurs, and future investors who are learning, growing, or taking their first steps in real estate. Here, we move with patience, focusing on clarity, confidence, and progress, one step at a time. Each episode is about real conversations, simple explanations, and honest stories from people who started right where you are and didn't give up. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, unsure, or discouraged, you're not alone. This podcast is here to guide, encourage, and remind you that growth is possible. Welcome to Growth Investor Circle to Real Estate Investing in Canada and around the world. Here's 𝐘𝐿.
Welcome back. In today's episode, I have two guests who understand how wealth is created. An immigrant from Israel coming from realtor to an investor, someone who understands the landscape of multifamily investment, family orientated. They have been investor in Canada. They're also trying to do the same thing they did in Canada in the United States. So the one and the only Shelly Blanks and Eugene, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Gab. Thank you for having
Hi,
us.
Gab. Thank you for having us. Yes.
Well, Shelly, tell me, how did you do all of this coming from a realtor to owning many units? What exactly changed in your identity?
Well, it's actually all happened in the same time. It's not like one thing was before the other. We actually started investing in real estate like around 15 years ago after we read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and then we immigrated here to Canada, and I got my realtor license at some point around 2015. So I was in real estate. Eugene was working as a mechanical engineer in research and development for many years. And then at some point, I mean, we always liked the real estate. We always thought it was a good way to invest. And we actually bought the first duplex here in Canada. Was it? Yeah, 2014, before I got my realtor license. And we took it and we turned it into a legal duplex. We got some experience with tenants, and so it kind of builds up over time. Then I was a realtor for a long time, and at some point Eugene lost his job, and we decided he said, I don't want to work for anyone else anymore. I don't want to be dependent on someone else for my income. Let's do our own business. And I said, okay, great. Let's do a business together. Let's go start investing, more seriously into real estate. And then we decided to go for the multi-residential because we saw in the one property that we had that we turned it from a single to a duplex. We realized that it's better to have more in the same property than, like, it's better to have multiple units than just one for each property. The risk is lower as a landlord, right? Because if I have only one tenant in one house, if this tenant moves out or stop paying, I have zero income on that house. But if I have two tenants, and one of them is living, I still have one that is still paying at least, part of the expenses. But if I have 10 tenants in the building and one of them is moving out, I have still 9 tenants still paying. I don't need, it's much less risk for me to be stuck with no income in that situation. So we decided to look for a bigger property with more units, and it took a while. It took a while to find it, and in 2018 we got a really good deal, but the property was really, really, in really bad shape, and we bought
very good. Very bad property.
Yeah, it was like the price was really good, but it was because the property was in a really rough shape, really bad tenants. very low income. The physical condition of the property was really, it was neglected for many years, so a lot of deferred maintenance. And we knew it's going to be a really big project, but we said, okay, we saw the potential, so we decided to go for it. And we bought 28 units complex in Coburg. And Eugene just took it as his project and did it like full time, dealing with the bad tenants, doing renovation, getting things, maintenance that needed to be done. There was so many projects there. I think so. We did a really big jump from a duplex straight to 28 units because we always do things we don't wait for things to happen gradually. It's like we see something, we just go for it, right?
Skipping stages.
Yeah, we're skipping. We're doing big steps every time, not small steps.
The way you are talking about it, you makes it seems easy. Like anyone can just wake up and do it. And
Well, it's not easy, but you need to be very determined, right? It's like you really need to. It's not enough just to want it. You need to like keep at it. You need to stay the course. You need to keep going, keep pushing, even if things are not going the way you want or it's not easy. You just need to keep push through, find the solutions to the problems. And that property had so many problems. It took us 8 years to stabilize it, to do all the renovations and all the maintenance that needed to be done, and replace all the bad tenants with good tenants. And now it's finally stabilized. So we said, okay, now we want to make it into a real business. We want a scalable business. And then that was like about a year ago. We joined we joined the Ben Humbles community, and we took the coaching program, business development coaching for real estate, and then about what was it, like 6-7 months ago, we decided to start going into the market in Fort Worth, Texas, buying single families, flipping them, and some of them we're gonna keep as rentals, some of them we're gonna sell, to make some money. But the plan, like the short-term plan, is to flip houses there for a while to create, income, and the long-term plan is basically to create a portfolio over there of rentals that we're gonna keep, and that will be some income for us in addition to the portfolio we have here.
yeah, thank you for sharing your journey from the beginning until now. Many of our audience will love to hear where did you come from until today. That's really it's a journey. It's a big journey. And what Eugene, what the moment that everything's changed, your aha moment, the moment you said, "This is it for me." Can you walk me to that moment?
I'm not sure if it's a moment or it's a process. I was working for R&D, different industries and different projects and companies for over 20 years as a mechanical engineer. And at some point, I understood, and I switched jobs every 4 or 5 years to the next one, because when you realize that you know what you're doing and you're eager to learn more, so you switch. Otherwise, as an engineer, you become bored. So I was, switching between jobs, and I understood that if I will not have my company and my future business, I always will be working for somebody. I always will be putting my ideas in somebody else's business. And also, I only will gain maybe pension plan in the end, because you cannot become rich from 9 to 5. So, and that was kind of a point and also opportunity when my company moved to US, and they said, okay, do you want to move with us to North Carolina? We said, no, we want to stay in Canada. And then I will start looking for a job. And then eventually I understood that I don't want to do it again. I just want to start my business, our business. And we work with Shelly very good. So we start this business, and that's basically was the decision.
Yeah, I received so many questions of our audience. I want to know time they have these beliefs that blocks them from taking the next move. Seems like you have a plan, you know how to go, you already have something to look up. Some of our audience, they don't know where to start. They are dealing on 9 to 5 job. Maybe they just have a lot going on. They just want to know, what belief did you have to let go to reach your next level?
You can answer.
So first of all, we both believe in our ability. So I think this is the base. In every point, even the hard times and in failures, we never question our ability to complete, even if it will take longer. Maybe we'll take, instead of straight line, it will go to the zigzag. But we knew that we can solve it because we problem solvers. Every problem we have, we didn't see it, as unsolvable. It's not like,
It's never the end of the world.
yes,
We can always find a solution.
okay, we have a problem. It doesn't mean we need to stop. We need to see how we can solve it.
Yeah.
So being 9 to 5, it's very difficult to stop work for company that provides you this and this and this and this, and sometimes good benefits, sometimes some other stuff. And it's like, oh, but I'm going to work for myself, and then maybe I will not be able to provide it to myself. But first of all, real estate is very strong market, very strong field to invest. That's why we didn't open company to create something, like to build something.
We don't invent the wheel.
Something like that.
Something we know it's already working.
And we love it.
Yeah.
We love real estate. We can talk real estate every day, all day. So that's what I think. First of all, you need to believe in yourself. And if you're not, start working on it. Start believing yourself. Because if somebody using your ability and they hire you, it's because they need your ability to do it. And you can do it even for yourself.
Yeah, I just want to add that we did not stop everything else that we are doing and throw away everything we had and just concentrate on the real estate. It was kind of gradual, and also Eugene was doing the rehabilitation of that huge property. He was doing it full time while I was still working as a real estate agent, bringing in, income to the family. It's not like we throw away our 9 to 5 and just do real estate and suddenly everything was great. No, we did it, gradually. One of us was still working while the other was concentrating on the property. We used the property's income to reinvest into the property to do the projects, and then we refinanced to pull out funds to do the projects, all the maintenance and renovations that was needed there. It was a really big and long project because we tried to do everything with our own resources. But what I was trying to say is that just because you decide you want to invest in real estate and now I'm going to build my business, it doesn't mean you need to quit your job and now do it full time, because it's very, very hard. So you need to have at least either you do it part time, because real estate is very, very forgiving, and also it's very you can do it part-time while you still work in your full-time as an employee for someone else. You don't have to burn the bridges, you know what I mean? Just do it gradually, start, but just do something. And when you feel that you can, if you already have some kind of income source, then you can decide when you quit your job and do it full time to scale your business. But I don't think that it's smart to burn the bridges. You can't just quit everything, have no other source of income, and think that everything will be okay. That's just irresponsible. You can do it if you're 20, but not in our age and when you have kids. So just we did it gradually. It sounds easy now, but we went through a lot of difficulties. You just need to keep going, keep pushing forward, and always just think, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. It might take me a little bit longer, but I will find a way to do it. That's the way we always look at things.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure many immigrants in Canada who are doing 9 to 5, but they love real estate. They're gonna take really good advice from you, Shirley. Thank you for sharing that. I have another question, just in the same line of what you just mentioned. If someone met you, the version of you from 10 years ago, what identity they will see today?
I think today we are more confident about our abilities because we already overcame a lot of hard situations and a lot of problems that we faced and solved during this last 10 years. I think today we have much, at least myself for sure, much better self-confidence and a lot more, how can I say? I think much better negotiation skills. Eugene always been a problem solver, so he's always good at that. But I think also I believe that like today we are much more confident in ourselves and our abilities, and we know we can basically do anything because we already did a lot, so we know we can do it. That's what I feel.
I think the difference, if you will met 10 years ago, you will meet, so Shelly was looking for herself because she was self-employed, but I was employee. So I was employee, and those 10 years, it's basically the transition from employee to business owner, small business owner. And for the last year, I'm working strongly from employee to business operator. And for the last year, I'm working strongly, and Sheila, I know you too, from business operator to business owner.
Yeah.
And the difference is the business operator work in the business and the business owner work on the business. So, and that's, I think it was our biggest problem, and that's why we didn't know how to scale our business, because we was locked in the box of business operators.
Yeah, and the difference, like the main thing that is the big difference for us, when you are a business operator, you always try to do everything yourself. You need to control everything and you need to do everything yourself because you know that you will do it the best way. And it's really hard to trust someone else to do work that you know you can do. That's like the big mind shift that we were going through this past year, to learn how to hire people that will do the things that we used to do, because that will free our time to do things that will bring more business in and will let us scale the business and build it as a business that can grow, because it's no longer, because when the business depends on yourself, when you are the business operator, the business basically is limited by what time we have and what abilities we have, what the things that we know how to do. And that is very restricting because there's only so many hours and there's only so much you can do before, you fall apart and burn out. So learning how to delegate some of the things, like for example, this last year, Eugene was working on implementing software for managing the property on the property management side, like the interface with the tenants and all that, and training an assistant that will manage that platform for us. And that really freed his time to be able to help me develop the new business we started in Texas now. So that's letting go, like delegating that role to another person and training them and giving them, the tools to do it. That was a really big shift for us in the mindset and also, in the way that we are doing things. So I think that was one of the most, to learn how to delegate some of your tasks to someone else.
Thank you. People often focus on strategies, but strategy only work when the identity support them. You just mentioned that is a perfect example. But what belief did you have to let go before you could build and scale? Because we know that we're still human beings. We have things that hold us down. And many, especially people from different country, because they left their country, they're coming to a new place. They have this belief. They're thinking that the system is against them. And how did you do to challenge those beliefs so you can be on top of your decisions?
I think,
it's something that we also build during the years.
yeah,
Because
over the
in the
years.
beginning, we didn't know, and we didn't know how it would be. We was eager to try. We was saying, okay, we're gonna crush it, no matter what. We're gonna do it. If it will be difficult, we're gonna do it. If it will be easy, we're gonna do it. And I think, Gabe, I came to the conclusion that if you have a lot of problems, to solve all of them is probably not the best way to do. But if you will challenge a few problems in one time, or one problem at a time, eventually you will solve all of them. Sometimes the priority of the problem is important, but if you're not, I always compare that to the staircase. You have a long staircase with 10 stairs, and it looks like, wow, I need to climb there. So many tasks to do, how I can handle it. But you can see the first step in front of you. So if you will do each step every time, it will allow you to climb without so much, will be same effort, but without scarcity.
Without the stress.
Stress and
Less
scarcity.
stress and
I
less.
think the scarcity is what holds people back.
It's
It's not
also,
ability, it's
yeah.
scarcity.
It's more like you think that when you try to look at the whole staircase in one go, you say, "Oh my God, this is so hard. It's such a huge undertaking. How can I do it?" Don't look at the whole thing. Just look on the first step. You say, "Okay, I'm gonna do this now." You do it. Oh yeah, I did it. Okay, now what's the next step? You do the next step. And this way, every time you do one step, then suddenly you look back and you say, "Oh wow, I already climbed 10 steps. Look what I did. I did a lot."
And sometimes we're looking back and we're like,
And,
oh,
oh,
so many steps down.
yeah, And after you do that, you can always say, "Oh wow, look, I already did all this stuff. Now I know I can do more because I already done that. This was hard. Now I can do more because I know that I can do these hard things. It's not so hard, I did it, so I can do it again. You don't need to be scared." But I know, to your actual question before, you said people are afraid that the system is against them and they come to a new place, they don't really know how things work, and it takes time to understand how things work in a new country and all that. Yeah, it's true. I think one of the things that for me personally is that I think maybe letting go of thinking what other people will think about me, that's something that really helps me always until today to go forward and do things like picking up the phone and calling agents, negotiating and saying like, okay, so what's the worst that can be? I don't care if someone say something about me. Like I remember when the kids were young and we were like in the street and I'm like, or like outside, and I would say something and my kids, "Mom, don't say like that. Don't, why are you speaking Hebrew in the street?" And I'm like, what do I care? So what? What will happen? I will do things the way I think I should do them. And it doesn't matter to me what other people think. It's hard to do that. It's hard to become firm on that. It's something that it's something that stops a lot of people from doing things where they always think, "Oh, no, what will people think about me? What will the neighbors say? What will the other parents in class will say of my kids at school? What will, people say?" And for me, I say, I don't care what they say. Why should that affect me? Right? I know I will do the things the best way I want to do them, and I will be nice and polite, and I will do things, properly, but I don't need to think in advance that people will see me as something, I don't know what. It doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you answered really well, because if you care about other people's are saying, sometimes they say family and friends can be harder to manage than a stranger. I know that personally, because back home people they focus more on critics, and they trying to see what if this person has this, how can I do to have the same thing, but they forget that everybody has their own way. And
Yeah.
you mentioned something really good there, because you build that discipline or that strength in yourself to not care what other people think and focus on what you think is best for you.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good way to see it that way. Now we're gonna talk about multi-residential because that is the goal of this meeting. And I wanna know, what is the advantage of owning a apartment building?
Okay. So, there's several advantages.
I always think it's a division of the risk. So let's say you have one house with one tenant, then you have 100% risk. If you have one building with 10 tenants, it's a 1/10 of the risk. The more tenants you have in the same property, it's divided by number of tenants, and that's the risk you have. So it's a much lower risk financially. Yes, you deal with more people, you deal with more tenants. It's not easy in Ontario. You need to be very professional to do. You need to know the rules in the law. But the risk is financial risk is lower. But the other benefit is the maintenance. If you have 10 houses or you have one building, you have 10 roofs or you have one roof. You have one system for 10 apartments, heating or other systems, or you have 10 systems. So maintenance-wise, it's also beneficial. Not everything is beneficial in multi-unit. For example, those properties are much slower to sell and much more complicated to buy and screen, due diligence, etc. If you know what you're doing and planning ahead of the time, then those cons can be lower than the cost.
Yeah. Every asset class has their, advantages and disadvantages. In multi-unit compared to single family, the advantage of having multiple tenants, it can also be considered a disadvantage by some people because when you have a lot of tenants, you have a lot of headache. When you have a lot of units, potentially, you have more, maintenance requests or whatever in compared to one house. But on the other hand, you make a lot more income because even though each unit might receive less rent than a single family home, when you have 10 of them, the total rent is much, much more substantial, right? So that's also something to consider. The disadvantage is that it's harder to find a good deal on multifamilies because in Ontario specifically. Because you just have less buildings than residential single family. And it's harder to buy them, it's harder to sell them. The financing is different. On the other hand, in a multifamily, it's considered, if you have more than 5 units in Ontario, the banks consider it as commercial, even if it's all just apartments and no commercial units. It's considered a commercial asset, and then you have commercial financing, which is a little bit more expensive, but the bank will look at the income of the property first before they look at you, the borrower, to qualify for the loan. So if the property is bringing in enough income, the bank will give you financing for it, even though you are self-employed or you don't have a huge income. While when you are trying to qualify for regular residential financing, they look only at you, the buyer. How much is your income? What's your other, all that stuff.
I think another benefit that for the residential, you limit it with number of mortgages.
Yes.
But when you switch to commercial, which is multifamily, it's actually commercial business. So there is no limit. And banks love to give mortgages. You just need to show that the income is substantial compared to the numbers that you're trying to get.
You just mentioned something really important there. Someone who's able to capture that, it's really important to understand because when you switch to commercial, the bank doesn't look your income as an individual. It looks how much the property can produce a year. You can have a bad credit. You can be someone who doesn't work and get a finance because you have a building that's generate more money. Is that true?
It's not completely true. If you have bad credit and you have absolutely no income or any experience in that field, then probably the bank will not lend you money, even though the property looks like it's bringing in good income. You need to have some kind of basic, credentials. If you have experience being a landlord for a while, even if it was just on one single home, it looks better for the bank. But they want to see that you are credible, right? They want to see you have like reasonable credit and you have some kind of either you have other assets, like maybe you own your own home, or maybe you have another rental property. Then they can say, okay, I can see you have assets that can be a collateral, So if you don't pay up the loan on the commercial, we can take you over to your other house, So they know that the risk for them is lower. But what I meant was that the major difference is that it's easier to qualify for the commercial loan because if the property can justify it, right? Because the property is generating income, the bank will look first at the income of the property, and then they will look at you because you need to be the guarantor for the loan. Even if you have a corporation that the corporation is buying the property, still they will want you, the person, to be the guarantor of that loan. But it's different than with the residential qualifying for a residential loan, because in the residential, they look only at you. And also you have the limit of like 5 or 8 or a certain limit of how many mortgages you can take.
Some of the question you have already covered. That's why I'm trying to go to the what you didn't talk about. As an investor, how do an investor finance a building without going through the banks, without having to do all of that? How do an investor can just start searching for buildings without using the bank money?
So when we came to Canada, it was 2011. After 2 months, I started working. Shelly was a student. And then after 1 year, because we decided even before we came that we're not renting anymore. Whatever we do, we buy. So on 2012, we bought our house, which is originally we already thought about to do it as a duplex. So we rent the basement and live upstairs. It's a bungalow. So we choose the house to split the cost. That's helped us to save some money while we were working. In 2014, we saved some money, so we bought another duplex, make it legal, renovate the basement, and rent it. So we start gaining some rental income. In 2018, when we decided to buy multifamily, we did refinancing for our house. We pulled the maximum. 2018, it was a higher market price.
Market was very high
for real estate. So we refinanced our house, pulled the maximum. Yes, we stretched. We took 𝐘𝐿. If somebody doesn't know, 𝐘𝐿 is a home equity line of credit that you basically allowed to take money from your equity against the property. So we took 𝐘𝐿, is like a second mortgage, but it's different. It's more
short term.
It could be short, it could be long, it's just more flexible. So we stretched from our house, we stretched from the rental property, and we took mortgage. And all that allowed us to buy multifamily, basically
100%.
100%
The bank money, not our money.
financing.
Yeah.
Yes, we did it from our properties, and we need to pay more mortgage and more 𝐘𝐿, but it was 100% of bank money. So basically, we bought it without money.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy right there. For someone who doesn't have, let's say, a house they can refinance. How do you think they can do that without going to the bank? And what do you think, in your opinion, they can start doing in order to achieve that?
They can find someone who will be willing to come in as a financial partner, maybe, if they know someone who has money and they like, if you are willing to do all the hard work, find the property, negotiate the deal, then do all like if the property needs renovation, you handle all that, then you handle the tenants, and the partner brings the money, or the partner is eligible to get the financing from the bank. And this way, and you do an agreement with some kind of split on the ownership, a split on the profits. It's all negotiable. You guys can, work out an agreement and basically become equity partners when one partner is the active one who's doing all the work, And the second partner is the one who brings in the finance to finance the deal and purchase it and maybe even, get the money for the renovation if needed. And basically you split the profits later down the road.
That's a good answer. Thank you, Shelly.
Another option,
Go ahead.
actually, yeah, another option that if you know somebody with money and is not willing to to put money on the project that you're planning to do, but you do have another property, either your house or rental, they can use RRSP or money from saving account, and they can become a mortgagee, giving you a mortgage, giving you money against the property you have, and then this money you can use to move forward and buy another property.
Or they can be the
put
first
down payment.
lender. They can be basically they can be the bank for you. They can use their
For the same
RSPs.
property.
Yes, for the property you want to purchase, they can be the bank for you. So they can give you the loan, the mortgage, which will be registered against the property that you're buying, and then they basically their money is secured against the property. If you don't pay up, they can force the sale and get back the money back. You are the owner of the property, so everything is your responsibility, and you're responsible to pay them the loan just like you would pay the bank. Usually they get higher rates on such a loan, and these loans are usually like short-term loan for like a year or maybe 6 months, because that's like it's just to help you purchase the property, then do the renovation, and then you either sell it or you refinance it and then pay them back, and they made money. You have the property, and everybody are happy. So that's also a way of doing that as well. There's many different strategies that you can use.
Look at you, Shelly and Eugene. You guys are coming up as professionals in the field. I'm really happy for that because this is high level information you guys are providing. This is really what people need to know because there is out there a lot of money than deals. What we just shared with my guest today, most of the people won't tell you about this in real estate, but I will. Subscribe for the truth. I really hope everybody gets these and understand how we are talking about these topics. And my next question is, where do you find these good opportunity, these multifamily deals? Do you go talk to your neighbor? Where do you go exactly to find them?
Share how we found it.
Well, our property we found by just talking to people. We actually went to talk to the
one of the municipalities.
the city in the city of Coburg. We went to talk to what was the name? Financial development, or
It doesn't matter. It was a
one of them.
strategy that we decided that we're gonna do. We're gonna go to municipalities, talk to people, and ask them if they know somebody, wants to sell or maybe suffering, struggling, and it's off market, right? So it's actually from the mouth to
Like word of mouth.
word of mouth. Yeah. So that's the strategy we choose. We went to several meetings up to the point that we spoke with somebody, and she gave us the phone number of the landlord, that the property in good condition, and the landlord is very tired of being landlord. And that's how we contacted and eventually signed agreement and purchased our property. But there are a lot of people, that they just want to get sometimes just some money, just, not for free, but get some money and get it out and be out of this business.
Get rid of it. Yeah. So you need to just talk to a lot of people. That's what I think. Like try and see. Even if you want to invest in your own town, walk around, see a building. You say, oh, if it looks kind of like not in a great shape, maybe from the outside, maybe you see a lot of garbage around.
Maintenance, attention.
Yeah, poor maintenance of the building. You can usually tell from the outside. If you see like flags inside instead of curtains in the windows, that's a sign of bad tenants. And then you can try to find out who's the owner. Try to reach out to them, buy them coffee, ask them, sit down with them, ask them if they're what's the situation, if they're maybe interested to sell. Maybe you can find all kind of different, creative ways. also, I mean, even if they don't want to sell right away, or they say, yeah, I don't want to be a landlord anymore, but I can't sell it because that's my only income and I still need to live. And so you can say, okay, how about this? Maybe we can become partners. We can become partners. I will come in, as your partner on the property. You will continue to receive this amount of monthly income. They can give you like maybe a seller finance loan. So basically the seller becomes the bank to the buyer. And then like you put everything in writing, obviously with the lawyer and everything. But you make some kind of agreement for several years or a certain amount of time where you pay them, some kind of maybe down payment, and then you pay them monthly for the interest. You do all the work, you manage the tenants, you manage the maintenance, you do renovation, you do everything. And at some point you come to them, you say, okay, it's time, let's do refinance. And then you pay them out and you have the property as the owner, or they can stay your partner, but you refinance and then you can pull out some money from that property and either use it to do, if you have big projects that needs to be done there, or you just use it for, purchasing the next property or whatever strategy that you want.
Yeah.
The
What?
refinance, it means to go to the bank and
Get a
refinance
regular
the mortgage,
yeah,
get regular mortgage, and pay the money to the
to the seller.
previous owner,
Yeah.
the seller.
What you guys just described there, it's what we call drive for dollar, and Shelly described something we call creative finance. So both are answering all the question I had in that topic. I'm really happy. What is
Sorry
this?
to jumping forward.
Yeah, it's really good. And we hear sometime people are saying, how do you know if a multifamily property is a good investment for you? What do you have to know, the basic, in order to make that move?
Okay, so you need to know a lot of things. It's not as simple like single family residential. Single family is very simple. You see a house, you know how much the rent can be in that area, and then
Comparables.
you compare other houses that were sold. You figure out how much is the fair market value for it, and then you can negotiate, and you know that if you got them a good price, was it a good price or not? Okay, that's very simple. With multi-residential, it's a little bit more complex because you need to, first of all, you need to see exactly what's the rental right now. So what's exactly the income? What's exactly the expenses? There are much more expenses. In single family, you only have like property tax and your closing costs, but and your insurance. But in multi-residential, you have garbage disposal, you have snow removal, you have landscaping, you have maintenance, you have superintendent
Utilities
sometimes, yeah.
sometimes.
Utilities are sometimes on the, at least partially on the landlord. There's a lot of factors that you need to figure out. So you need to analyze the property very carefully. So you also need to see what's the actual physical condition of the property. Do you have separate meters for each unit for at least for the electricity? Because then you can transfer it to the tenants. You need to look at it in a way of thinking, okay, what is the actual expenses of the property today? And what is the potential to reduce those expenses if I manage it correctly, going forward? And also the rents. Okay, so what are the actual rents right now? What's the condition of the units? Do I need to renovate them? What is the market rent right now for similar units in this specific city? Will I be able to increase the rent after I take over the property? What kind of tenants are there? Am I going to be facing a lot of evictions or not? What's the cap rate? So what is the cap rate? It's the net income divided by the purchase price. So
Not operating income.
the net operating income, which means all of the income minus all of the expenses, that's the net operating income. Okay. And then you divide that by the purchase price and you get what is called a cap rate, which is capitalization rate. That's a percentage. And from my experience, it depends on what is the going rates for commercial mortgages. So if right now you can get a commercial mortgage with around 6.5% rate, you need your cap rate of the property when you purchase it. You need it to be a bit higher than that. Otherwise, you might be losing money straight from the get-go because you will not be even breaking even and you will have to, spend money from your own pocket to carry the property. Now, this is very, very like back of the envelope kind of houses. You need to go a lot deeper than that when you actually analyze the property. And it's also, there's no black or white. You can't say, okay, if you do this, then you know that. No, you need to analyze each property specifically, and the city itself, where like the location is also important to see you need to know will I be able to improve this property or not? How much will it cost me to improve it? How long will it take me to improve it until it becomes stabilized? So the property we bought was in terrible shape. It had terrible tenants, and a lot of units were vacant as well when we took over it. And but because the demand for rentals in that city was so high when we bought it, we knew that if we just fix up the units, we can get much higher rent. And we thought it was doable. It was doable. We did it. It was a lot harder than we expected, and it took a lot of money, and effort. But we did it, and we were right basically because we saw that. But when I talk to people with less experience, I would advise very much to be cautious because, like, if, for example, you're looking at properties that are advertised by realtors, many times they give you like the income and expenses, but it's not exactly the whole expenses. And they always try to show it to you like in a more favorable way and tell you how much potential there is there to increase the rents and all that. But in Ontario, you have to remember you cannot kick out the tenants at all.
You can, but it's not so easy.
It's not like you can just say, oh, they're on month to month, then you can raise the rent. No, you cannot. They need to move out first. So if you have fully tenanted building and all the tenants are paying like $600 a month all inclusive, and the going rent in that city is, I don't know, $1,200 for similar units, you can't say, oh yeah, I will just raise the rents to $1,200. No, it will not happen. You will need to wait for people to move out. Then you need to renovate, and only then you can raise rent on that specific unit that you renovated. So you need to be aware of these things, and multi-residential moves much slower. So that's one of the disadvantages in that field is that it takes time to stabilize. It takes time to become profitable and do the improvements. If you bring a lot of money up front, it will be faster, but basically it will take time anyway. It's slower than in single family.
Even if you want to do a flip on multifamily, it will go
take a lot slower.
Yeah. So you need to be patient. Mm-hmm. It's like a hunting. You need to be patient to get something.
Speaking from the expert, problem solver, we have to understand that it takes a lot of patience. And I remember when I first started investing, I had this amazing idea. I was telling my partner that can we just before I buy my first house, I need to buy a multi-residential family house. And he looked at me. Do you like go after people? Do you like this? You like that? You like this? And I was like, I'm tired already looking after people. I am already tired living because that time I was living in apartment, and I had some of I would say blockage. I will block everything that comes because of the experience I was living in that apartment building.
Right?
People are screaming, people are throwing things. It was in a bad neighborhood. So imagine all of that and me having to deal with that as a landlord. Imagine how that would be. So I decided to not buy multi-residential, but I still think it's one of the best investment if you can do it. Is
You
that
know, even multi-residential, even if it's a bad property, it's in your force to change it. For example, our property, we get in letters from our tenants that actually was tenants when we bought it. There are only few, probably 4 tenants that stay the same. And we get in letters from those people thanking us that we changed the property and we changed the neighborhood. So this is something, it's not easy, but it's possible. So you can take bad property and you can make it good property, and it will be good income, and it will be, your success.
You just need to remember that it's not going to be easy. So you need
And
to
it
be
will take time.
realistic, and it will take time.
Yeah.
So you need to come into it with a realistic point of view, not be over optimistic and then say, oh no, I thought it would be so easy. I'll just buy it. And then it's just going to be a cash cow and I'm not, just going to be living on the income. No, it's a lot of work. You need to do a lot of things. It's either that or you hire a professional to manage it for you. And then you might not have any of the income left. But
Huh?
but I mean,
That's why we manage our property ourselves. And we have a property management company that we established that manage our portfolio. Because the way we manage our property, we know it's good. We know it's working. We know we have a system. So we're not relying on other property management company that will do the same job.
Well, if I understand, so you have one managing the portfolio and one you manage the property itself.
Oh, we bought the property under one corporation. We managed it under the same corporation for a long time, but in the last year, we decided to make it more efficient. And we already during these years, we kind of built a system of how to manage the property and how to manage the tenants. And we have a system to do it. And then we just created a second corporation that is a property management company, and we transferred all of the management of this property to our second company, basically turning the first company just to a holding company, which they just own the property, and the second corporation manage the property. And and that is a lot more efficient for taxes, for a lot of reasons. And so that's the way we do it now. So now our property management company manage our multifamily and our other rental as well. So all of our own properties are managed by our own property management company. Yeah.
Very nice. That's a good move. Congratulations on that move. Now we are moving to a question that's usually I receive 3 questions from our audience, and you have a choice either to respond all of them or you just respond one of them. That is your decision. But I will read all of 3 questions I received from you guys. The first question is, what separates investor who own 10 units from those who owns 1 unit? That is the first question. The second question is, how do you balance buildings wealth with buildings in a meaningful life? Basically managing time and work and time management. So the third question is, if you were starting over today with no portfolio, what would your game plan be? If you want me, I can repeat all of them again. Which question you can answer in those 3, or you can decide to answer all of them.
We can answer all of them. It's no problem.
Go ahead. I can repeat them.
Let's start from the last one, and then you will repeat the second one, and etc. So the last one, yeah, go ahead.
The last one is, if you were to start over today with no portfolio, what would be your game plan? That is the last question.
I think we can take Texas as an example, because basically, yes, we have experience, but basically in US, it's a different experience. We didn't have any company. We didn't have anything in Texas.
We started from scratch, basically.
We started from scratch. And also, our previous experience, we used all our money. But in Texas, we decided to use OPM, which is other people's money. So I think if I would start from scratch right now, Eugene, 20 years old, and
No,
starting a real estate.
no, he means with our experience, but no portfolio, just starting over
Is that
now.
okay?
Yeah.
So that's what we did in Texas, basically. So our goal in Texas is we buying properties with other people, money. Other people invest with us because they know what we do and they know who we are. We buy single families in Texas. The plan is some keep it, some sell it, create a cash flow for the company, and then buy multifamily. And because multifamily, it's slower business, and it's also could be risky depend on the market and the financial situation of the countries, because we know the last couple of years it was a difficult situation for multifamily in US because different financial problem and some political problems. So, and we hold the single family as the tool if we have any problem or we get some financial difficulties with this multifamily. We always can sell the single family 1 unit or 2 units and patch the hole in the multifamily and continue with the portfolio. Because if you go directly to multifamily, it's a big asset. If you have a financial problems, it takes longer to sell. So it's much easier to lose if you're not able to pay the mortgage and stuff like that. So that's basically the strategy we're planning to do in Texas. We're just in the beginning of it, but that's, I think, answers your questions and question. What was the second one?
Yes, the second one is how do you balance building wealth with building a meaningful life?
So
This is different for you and for me a little bit.
Yeah, well, it depends on which stage you're in, right? Because when you're just starting, then you need to work like crazy. You need to put in a lot of hours. You need to be extremely determined and like really, really go for it all in. And then it is harder to balance, life work balance there, especially if you have your kids. But like I remember when we just started, and started as a realtor, and I was working like crazy, and we had small kids. Yeah, so you cook on when you have time, and you freeze some of it, and then you kind of manage the things you have to do to take care of the house with all the hours that you need to work. But when you are self-employed, you also kind of have sort of control of your time, because you can kind of like arrange your meetings, arrange your work hours to fit with other things going on in your life, like with kids' activities or cooking or taking care of the house or stuff like that. And you can kind of fit it in and you find a way to kind of get everything done, right? But after when you get things stabilized more, like for example with our big properties, Eugene was there every day in the beginning for the first year. But then things got a little bit more stable. Still was going on with big projects, but it wasn't like every day to go there. It was kind of more like once a week, then once every 2 weeks, or like occasionally you had to go every day, but then you had like longer stretches where you didn't have to go there physically, just do things on the phone, getting people to like contractors and stuff, right?
I think,
At some point you kind of work when you decide to, but we were able, because we have a system of how to manage these things, we were able to just take the motorhome and go road tripping for 4 weeks and still, still manage things from the road, because you do everything on the phone anyway, right?
So you mentioned system. That's exactly what I think is important.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's business or your private life. Everybody has their own system. And the people who work from 9 to 5, they have their own system. The business owners, they have their own system. Some of them better system, some of them not so good and can get some improvements. I think to have a system that collaborates from private and business, that you can transit from one system to another, then it can be very efficiently. And we always try to build systems.
Yeah.
Because with system, you can systematically do the same or systematically do something. Without, it's just a chaos and it's very difficult. So let's say if I would need to build a new business right now, as we're doing in Texas, we're building the third system that need to integrate in the previous systems that we have right now. And it has to be integrated because we want to do it, but it also has to be built as a system because otherwise it will be another chaos.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. I'm here, no words, because you are talking real stuff, really good stuff. The last question is, what separate investors who owns 10 units from those who owns thousands units?
The scalability, no?
No, you mean like, what's the difference between owning 10 units to owning like 200 units?
No, thousands.
Thousands of units? I think it's just the systems.
Thousand units, but I think responsibility and system.
Yeah.
If you have one property, you don't need much system. Yes, you do, like a little bit, but something small. It's, but if you have thousands, even, over 50 units, you already have to have a system.
Even with 10 units, I think you should have a system because it's basically the same. It's just more units, but it's basically the same. You need to establish some kind of system where you know how to handle, you have someone who is managing the communication with the tenants, someone who is in charge of the maintenance, and you basically supervise it all from above. But you need to delegate, you need to build that system in a way that you can hire someone to do it and you just check to see that they're doing it properly. You need to establish it in a way that is scalable. So if you build the system correctly, it doesn't matter if you have 10 units, 100 units, 500 units, it doesn't matter because you just make the system bigger and it still works. You just need to establish it in the correct way and then you can just scale it.
One house, you're doing the same thing, but just only yourself doing it. Let's say you have two houses, then maybe you can still do it yourself. All of the tasks you still need to do because from one apartment to, let's say, 100 apartments, the tasks are the same. It's just one task or 100 tasks for different how should I say? It's not 100 tasks. It's the same number of tasks. It's the same tasks. It's just for 100 apartments or for one apartment. Then you need system. Then you can hire assistants because you have more income so they can help you. Then you start delegating. So to build a system and start delegating, I think that's the difference between 1 or 1,000.
Very much. We get to the end of this section of multifamily investment. I'm going to thank you so much for all your knowledge, your wisdom, and everything you guys shared. I'm pretty sure people who will start once it's released listening to us, they will enjoy this conversation we had today, and it's gonna change their lives. It's gonna change their lives.
Sounds
For
good.
real, I'm gonna thank you on behalf of Grover Investor Circle, and also thank you for your time. And we will be in touch very soon.
You're welcome. And if anyone wants to connect with us, I'm always happy to connect. If anyone wants to talk to us about investing in the US, investing in multi-units, investing in any kind of investment in real estate, we're very happy to connect and meet new people, always.
All right. I guess they got the message. They will reach out.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Thank
you.
you. If you're serious about building wealth in real estate, subscribe to the channel. Every week, I will share what actually works.
Thanks for listening to the Real Estate Growth Investor Circle Canada. We hope you learned something valuable today that will help you continue to move forward on your real estate journey. If you need more information or you'd like to reach GOB for a one-on-one, go to growthinvestorcircle@gmail.com. Join us next time for more tips and proven strategies to grow your real estate business. Until next time, remember, progress comes one step at a time.